Come with me. 3 small words that would change 3 lives forever. It happened on the coldest November night in the quiet town of Maple Ridge, when a widowed father named Ethan Cole found a young woman sleeping on the concrete beside an empty bus stop. Her wheelchair sat tilted behind her, and she hadn't moved in hours. He couldn't leave her there another freezing night. But what happened after he brought her home would prove that sometimes the most broken souls create the strongest families. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing how far our stories travel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ethan's breath fogged in the frigid air as he stepped out of the all-night pharmacy, clutching cough syrup and fever medicine for his daughter. His pickup engine rumbled softly behind him. Then he saw her. Not on the bench, but on the ground, curled up beside the metal frame of the bus stop. The pale glow of the streetlight revealed a girl no older than 25. Her hair, once golden, clung damply to her face. Her clothes were thin, her skin almost blue. "Miss, are you all right?" Ethan called. The woman stirred, her voice barely audible through chattering teeth. "I'm fine. Just waiting." Ethan checked his watch. 11:42 p.m. The buses had stopped running hours ago. Waiting for what? There won't be another bus till morning. She tried to adjust herself and winced in pain. "I know. I just don't have anywhere else to go right now." That simple confession hit him harder than the wind. He hesitated. His daughter Lila, only 7, was homesick with their elderly neighbor Mrs. Dwyer keeping watch. Lila needed the medicine in his hand. Any reasonable person would have gone straight home. But he couldn't. "How long have you been here?" he asked. "Since yesterday." The words made his stomach twist. She had slept on concrete for more than 24 hours, in a wheelchair, in November. And still, she was trying to convince him she was fine. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Clara," she said after a pause. "Clara Hayes." "I'm Ethan," he replied. As he shifted awkwardly, his wallet slipped from his pocket. A small photograph slid out. Clara reached for it first, a man and a smiling little girl with curls, both wearing father-daughter dance ribbons. "You have a daughter?" "Yeah." "Lila?" "She's 7. Thinks she knows everything about dinosaurs and space." His voice softened. "Lost her mum 3 years ago. It's just the 2 of us now." Clara's expression changed, something like recognition flickering there. "She's beautiful," she murmured. "She has your smile." "She has her mother's spirit," Ethan said quietly. Then, before logic could talk him out of it, the words came. "Come with me." Clara blinked. "What?" "Come with me," he repeated. "It's supposed to hit freezing tonight. You can't stay here." "I don't have much, but I can offer a warm place for the night." "I don't need charity," she said sharply. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering safety. You don't even know me. I could be dangerous." "People who worry about being dangerous," he said gently, "usually aren't." She stared at him, searching for hidden motives. "Why do you care?" He thought for a long second, then answered honestly. "Because 3 years ago, right after my wife died, I was standing outside a pharmacy just like this, holding Lila and crying. An old man stopped, sat with me, and said 5 words that saved me: you don't have to hurry. He stayed until I could breathe again. I never even got his name." Ethan held out his hand. "So, let me be that person for you tonight. Just tonight." The wind rattled the bus sign. A siren wailed far off. Then, Quietly, Clara reached for his hand. That single gesture would change everything. Getting her into the truck wasn't easy. She insisted on transferring herself, determined not to be pitied. Ethan folded the wheelchair and tied it securely in the back with the old bungee cords he always carried. "It's about 15 minutes, he said as they pulled away. Clara nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. After a while, she broke the silence. "Your daughter, she's sick? Fever and cough. Stubborn as her mum. She keeps saying she can't miss school because they're doing volcano projects tomorrow." A small smile touched Clara's lips. "I loved those. Made one with my grandmother once, baking soda, vinegar, the works. The kitchen was a disaster." Her voice softened at the memory, and Ethan tucked that detail away. Raised by her grandmother. No mention of parents. "Lila's making Mount Vesuvius," he said. "She's been researching real eruption patterns. Gets that perfectionism from her mum." "And from you?" He smiled. "The stubbornness, definitely." The heater finally started working, filling the cab with warmth. For the first time, Clara's shoulders eased. "Can I ask?" Ethan said hesitantly. "You want to know about the chair," she said flatly. "I want to know if you're okay." For a long moment, only the sound of the tires filled the silence. Then she spoke. 2 years ago. Construction accident. I was an apprentice electrician, good at it. There was a scaffolding collapse. They said I broke safety protocol. I didn't, but their lawyers were better. Lost my job, my savings, everything. Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's not right." She shrugged. "A lot of things aren't. You either adapt or you don't survive." They turned into his quiet neighborhood, small houses with soft porch lights glowing. He pointed toward one with a flickering lamp. "That's Mrs. Dwyer's place. She watches Lila when I'm at work. She'll probably come by tomorrow and insist on feeding you. Don't fight it." "Are you sure about this?" Clara asked. "I'm sure," Ethan said. The house was nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, a creaky front step, and paint that needed touching up. But it was warm. And for now, that was enough. The house was quiet when Ethan pushed the door open. Warm air drifted from the old radiator, carrying the faint scent of lavender, Lila's favorite candle. "Wait here," he whispered. Clara watched as he slipped into the hallway and spoke softly to someone in the next room. A moment later, the sound of a child's cough broke the silence. Then came a sleepy voice, "Daddy." A few seconds later, a small girl with tangled curls peeked from behind the doorway. Her eyes widened when she saw Clara in the wheelchair. "Hi," Clara said gently. The little girl stepped closer, curiosity written all over her face. "Are you hurt?" Clara hesitated. "A little. But I'll be okay." "I'm Lila," the girl said proudly. "Dad says I'm the boss when he's not home." Ethan chuckled. "She's not wrong." Clara smiled faintly. "Nice to meet you, boss." Lila grinned and looked at her father. "Can she stay for dinner?" Ethan froze for a second. He hadn't even thought that far. Maybe just for tonight, sweetheart. She needs a warm place to rest." Lila turned back to Clara. "We have soup. It's not great, but Daddy says it makes you strong." "Then I'll take some," Clara whispered. While Lila proudly carried a small bowl to the table, Ethan brought out an extra blanket and placed it on the couch near the heater. Clara watched the two of them move around the room, their laughter, their rhythm, the little world they had built together. For the first time in months, she felt something that scared her more than the cold ever could. She felt safe. After dinner, Lila refused to sleep until she'd asked a dozen questions. Why do you have wheels on your chair? Can you still dance? Do you like cartoons? Ethan started to apologize, but Clara shook her head, smiling softly. Yes, yes, and especially the old ones. Then you're cool, Lila declared, finally satisfied. Moments later, she drifted off on the couch beside Clara, her small hand resting over Clara's. Ethan watched from the hallway, something tightening in his chest. It had been years since his daughter had connected with anyone so quickly. He turned to leave, but Clara's voice stopped him. You didn't have to do this, she murmured. Most people wouldn't have. He looked back at her, exhausted but sincere. You'd have done the same. Clara didn't answer. Deep down, she wasn't sure she would have. As the clock ticked past midnight, Ethan covered Lila with a blanket and switched off the light. The house fell into a gentle hush, the kind that only families know. Outside, the wind howled. But inside that little home, 3 people, a father, a daughter, and a stranger, had unknowingly taken the first step toward healing each other's broken hearts. And though none of them could see it yet, the decision made that night would lead to a bond stronger than blood, and a secret that would test everything they believed about love, trust, and fate. Before we continue, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because what happens next will change everything. The morning light spilled through thin curtains, painting soft gold across the living room. Clara stirred on the couch, the faint smell of pancakes drifting from the kitchen. For a second, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the blanket over her legs, the folded wheelchair beside her, and the little girl watching her from the hallway with a toy dinosaur in hand. You snore, Lila announced. Clara blinked, startled, then laughed. Do I? Like this, Lila said, pretending to snore dramatically. Ethan appeared behind her, flipping pancakes. Lila? Manners. She's fine, Clara said, smiling. It's been a while since I woke up to that kind of honesty. Ethan placed a plate on the table. Hope you like blueberries. It's our Sunday tradition. Clara hesitated, almost embarrassed. I can't thank you enough for this. Then don't, he said. Just eat. They ate quietly for a while, the hum of the heater and the clatter of forks filling the silence. For the first time in months, Clara tasted warmth that wasn't from coffee in a paper cup. After breakfast, Lila rolled over a sketchbook. Can you draw? She asked. Clara smiled. Not very well. That's okay. Daddy says art's not about being good. It's about feeling something. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Did I say that? Uh-huh. Yesterday. When I spilled paint on the cat. He sighed. Right. Clara laughed, a real laugh this time. It startled her. She'd almost forgotten what it sounded like. Hours passed. She and Lila built towers with blocks, made paper crowns, and filled the small house with the kind of noise that families make when they forget the world outside exists. But behind every smile, Clara's mind was racing. How long could she stay before they started asking questions? When Lila went out to play, Ethan finally asked what had been hovering between them since last night. So, where were you headed when I found you? Clara's eyes dropped. Nowhere in particular. Do you have anyone we can call? Family, friends. She shook her head. My grandmother passed last year. She was all I had. Ethan studied her quietly. What about work? I used to fix things, wiring, small repairs. But once I lost my mobility, the company said they weren't equipped for my situation. Translation, they didn't want me there. Ethan's jaw tightened. People can be cruel. Clara nodded. Yeah. But I learned something out there on those streets. Sometimes strangers are kinder than family. He wanted to say something, but before he could, Lila ran in holding a drawing. Look! It's us! On the paper were 3 stick figures, one tall with messy hair, one small with curls, and one sitting in a wheelchair. Underneath, she had written, "My new friend Clara." Ethan's throat tightened. Clara looked away, blinking fast. That evening, after Lila went to bed, Ethan brought a small toolbox from the hallway. You said you used to fix things. Clara frowned. Yeah, why? He pointed to the faulty radiator. Then help me prove it still works. They worked side by side, him holding the tools, her giving directions. And when the heater finally roared back to life, they both burst out laughing like kids. See, she said. Still got it. He smiled. Guess I should keep you around. For a heartbeat, the room went quiet. Neither of them moved. The laughter faded, replaced by something deeper, heavier. But before anything could be said, a knock at the door shattered the moment. Ethan opened it to find Mrs. Dwyer, the elderly neighbor, holding a basket of muffins, and behind her, a man in a black jacket watching silently from the street. The stranger's eyes flicked toward Clara through the window. And just like that, the warmth in the room turned cold again. Before we continue, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because the truth about who that man was will change everything Ethan thought he knew about the woman he brought into his home. Ethan's hand froze on the doorframe. The man outside wasn't moving, just standing near the curb, half shadowed by the streetlight. Everything all right, Mrs. Dwyer? Ethan asked, forcing a smile. Oh yes, dear, she said, handing him the basket. Just baked too many muffins again. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. But that fellow behind me, he's been out there a while. Said he was looking for someone. Ethan's chest tightened. Did he say who? She frowned. A young woman. Blonde, wheelchair. Before Ethan could answer, the man stepped forward. Her name's Clara Hayes, he said flatly. I need to speak with her. Clara heard the voice from inside. Her spoon slipped from her hand, clattering against the floor. Her face went pale. Ethan turned to her. Clara, who is he? She shook her head slowly, whispering, please. Don't let him in. The man's eyes narrowed through the window. Clara, it's me. You can't keep running. Ethan moved between them, his tone firm now. You need to leave. The stranger didn't flinch. You have no idea who she really is, do you? Ethan clenched his jaw. That's enough. The man gave a faint, humorless smile. She didn't tell you what happened the night of the accident, did she? Or why she really lost her job? Clara's breath hitched. Stop, she said softly. Tell him, Clara, the man continued, stepping closer. Tell him you weren't just some worker who got hurt. Tell him about the fire. Ethan turned, confused. Fire? Tears welled in Clara's eyes. Please, not here. Not in front of Lila. But it was too late. Lila had crept to the hallway, clutching her toy dinosaur, eyes wide. Daddy, she whispered. Who's that man? Ethan knelt, gently pulling her back. It's okay, sweetheart. Go to your room. When the girl was gone, Ethan faced Clara again. You need to tell me what's going on. Her voice trembled. He's my ex-supervisor. The one who said I broke safety rules. The man scoffed. That's one way to put it. You overloaded a junction box, Clara. You nearly killed 2 workers. That's not true, she cried. The wiring was already unstable. I reported it weeks before the collapse. But they ignored it. And when everything fell apart, they needed someone to blame. The man stepped closer to the porch light, his expression dark. We lost millions because of you. Clara shook her head, tears falling now. You lost money. I lost my legs. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Ethan's voice came low but steady. You need to leave. Now. The man hesitated, then sneered. You'll regret this. She's not who you think she is. Ethan shut the door before he could finish. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the hum of the heater, the same one they'd fixed together. Finally, Ethan said quietly, Is any of that true? Clara looked up, eyes red. I didn't cause the fire, Ethan. But I stopped it from spreading. I got the others out. The only reason I'm alive is because a beam pinned me before I could reach the exit. He studied her face, the pain, the fear, the truth buried in her voice. I believe you, he said softly. She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. Ethan knelt beside her, holding her like someone who'd known her far longer than 2 days. When she could finally speak again, she whispered, I didn't mean to bring trouble here. You didn't, he said. You brought honesty. And maybe that's what we needed most. She looked at him, her voice barely audible. Why are you being so kind to me? Ethan gave a sad smile. Because I know what it's like to be judged by half a story. Outside, the stranger watched from across the street, lighting a cigarette. Smoke curled into the night air. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number, and said quietly, I found her. Before we continue, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because in the next part, Clara's truth will finally come to light, and the family she's just begun to trust may never look at her the same way again. That night, sleep never came easily. Ethan sat in the dim light of the living room, staring at the window where the stranger had stood hours ago. The street outside was empty now, but something in his gut said it wasn't over. From the couch, Clara stirred. He's not going to stop, she whispered. Ethan looked up. Who is he, really? Her eyes were distant. His name's Rick Calloway. He was my supervisor on the construction site, and after the accident, he became the company's mouthpiece. They needed a scapegoat, and he made sure I was it. But it wasn't just about the fire, Ethan. There was something bigger. He leaned forward. What do you mean? She hesitated. The night before the collapse, I found irregular wiring in the blueprints. It wasn't just bad planning, someone was cutting costs and hiding it. I confronted Rick. He told me to drop it. Hours later, the scaffolding went down. Ethan's brow furrowed. So, you think it wasn't an accident? I know it wasn't. I saw invoices that didn't add up. When I tried to report it, the company's lawyers shut me down. Then Rick told everyone I caused the explosion. And when the investigation came, they buried the truth under paperwork. Her hands shook as she spoke. He ruined my name, my career, my life. And now he's trying to make sure I never tell anyone what really happened. Ethan sat back, silent for a long moment. That's why he followed you here. Clara nodded. I left town 6 months ago, trying to disappear. But someone must have told him where I was. He rubbed his face, thinking. Then you're not safe here. I'll leave tomorrow, she said. I've caused you enough trouble. But Ethan shook his head. You're not running anymore, Clara. Not this time. She looked at him, confused. Why would you risk your daughter's safety for me? Because you didn't deserve what they did to you, he said simply. And because Lila, she's already attached to you. You leave now, it'll break her heart. Tears filled her eyes again. You barely know me. He gave a sad smile. Sometimes you don't have to. Before Clara could reply, the sound of a car engine echoed from outside, slow, deliberate, stopping right in front of the house. Ethan's heart jumped. He pulled the curtain aside just enough to see headlights slicing through the darkness. The same black car. Rick! Stay here, Ethan said, his voice low. Ethan, don't. But he was already at the door. When he stepped outside, the cold hit him like a wave. Rick stood by the car, cigarette glowing between his fingers. This doesn't have to get ugly, Rick said, his tone calm but dangerous. Just tell me where she's staying after tonight. I'll handle the rest. Ethan folded his arms. You're not handling anything. You've done enough. Rick smirked. You think you can protect her? You don't even know the kind of mess she's in. There's money missing, company money, and her name's all over the paperwork. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? Rick flicked the cigarette to the ground. Check the files. You'll see for yourself. He got into his car, rolling the window down one last time. When the police come knocking, don't say I didn't warn you. The car drove off, taillights fading into the night. Ethan stood there, cold wind biting his skin, confusion and doubt creeping in. Could Rick be telling the truth? Or was it just another lie meant to tear her down? Inside, Clara was trembling. He's not bluffing, she whispered when Ethan returned. They forged documents under my name after the accident. They're making it look like I embezzled funds to cover up the faulty materials. That's why I've been hiding. Ethan's eyes hardened. Then we're going to prove them wrong. Clara stared at him, stunned. You don't understand, Ethan, they have lawyers, power, everything. He nodded. Maybe. But they don't have the truth. And they don't have us. For the first time, a small flicker of hope crossed her face. Later that night, as she sat beside the sleeping Lila, Clara brushed a strand of hair from the girl's forehead and whispered, You remind me what it's like to believe again. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, the kind of sound that warned of storms on the way. Because in the coming days, the truth would rise to the surface, and all three of them would be forced to face the fire, together. By morning, the world outside was heavy with fog. The kind that made sound travel strangely, muffled, almost cautious. Inside the house, Ethan hadn't slept. He sat by the window, coffee gone cold, watching for that black car to return. In the kitchen, Clara moved quietly, packing her small duffel bag. I can't stay, she said softly. If Rick's telling the truth about the forged documents, the police will come. And I can't drag you and Lila into that. Ethan looked at her, his voice steady. You're not dragging us anywhere. You're part of this now, part of us. Clara's eyes glistened, but before she could reply, there was a knock on the door. Not a hard one. Just 2 calm knocks. Ethan motioned for her to stay back. He opened the door slowly, and there stood Rick, again. This time, he wasn't alone. 2 men in suits flanked him, their hands buried in coat pockets. Rick smirked. "Morning, neighbor. We just came to clear a few things up." Ethan blocked the doorway. "You should leave." Rick stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "You really think you know who you're protecting?" "She's been lying to you, Ethan. The files show her signature on every missing transfer." Clara's voice came from behind. "Stop lying, Rick." Rick's smirk twitched. "Lying? You want me to show him the pictures of the warehouse? The bank logs? Or maybe the recording where you said you'd take responsibility?" Clara stepped into view, her hands shaking. "I said that because you threatened me. You told me if I didn't, you'd make sure my name was the one they buried under the rubble." Rick's eyes turned cold. "You shouldn't have come back, Clara. You should have stayed gone." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're done here." Rick laughed under his breath. "You think this is over? You have no idea who you're up against." But then Clara did something unexpected. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a USB drive, worn and scuffed. "This," she said, holding it up, "is the original safety audit file from the night before the collapse. It shows who signed off the faulty wiring. It wasn't me. It was you, Rick." For the first time, Rick's smirk faltered. Ethan stepped closer. "She's been keeping this all along." Clara nodded. "It was my insurance. I just didn't know if anyone would believe me." Rick's voice dropped low. "You think a little flash drive will save you? You don't know what I've already erased." Clara met his eyes, her voice trembling but strong. "You can erase documents, Rick. But not guilt. And not truth." The men behind Rick exchanged uneasy glances. One of them whispered, "Boss, maybe we should go," but Rick snapped, "Shut up," and lunged forward. Ethan reacted first. He grabbed Rick's arm, forcing him back. They struggled on the porch, the fog swirling around them like smoke. Then, in the chaos, Rick slipped, falling hard against the railing before collapsing to the ground. The 2 men stepped back, hands raised. "We're done," one muttered. This wasn't part of the deal. They turned and disappeared into the mist, leaving Rick groaning on the pavement. Clara rushed forward. "Ethan, don't." But Ethan was already kneeling beside Rick. "You're going to face what you did," he said. "Every lie, every life you destroyed." Rick's voice was weak, but venomous. "You think they'll believe her now? You're just a construction worker. She's a disgraced engineer. They'll bury you both." Ethan looked at him calmly. "Maybe. But this time, we'll be buried together in truth." Sirens wailed in the distance, someone must have called the police. Rick's last words before they arrived were almost a whisper. "You should have left her in the dark." Hours later, the house was quiet again. Rick had been taken away, handcuffed and defeated. The evidence Clara carried was now in safe hands. As dawn broke, Clara stood by the window, watching the sunlight fight its way through the fog. Lila's laughter floated from the next room, innocent and bright. Ethan walked up beside her. "So, what now?" Clara smiled faintly. "Now, maybe I stop running." He nodded. "You don't have to do it alone." She looked at him, tired eyes, but hopeful. "You've already done more than I deserved." He shook his head. No. You just needed someone to believe you again. For the first time in years, Clara let herself exhale, a deep, trembling release of everything she'd been holding in. The courthouse steps were slick with rain, the sky still heavy with clouds, but inside, Clara felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. The trial had been long, draining, and at times terrifying. But when the verdict was read in her favor, relief had surged through her like a tidal wave. She was free. Her name cleared. And finally, the truth had been vindicated. Ethan stood beside her, hand wrapped around hers, while Lila tugged at his coat, eyes wide and shimmering with excitement. Tears streaked Clara's face, but she didn't care. They were tears of release, of triumph, of a past finally lifted. The judge's words echoed faintly in her memory. The evidence shows beyond reasonable doubt that Clara Hayes is innocent of all accusations. Justice will be served. Clara! Lila squealed, hugging her tightly. You did it! You're free! Clara laughed through tears, hugging the little girl back. We did it, Lila! All of us! Ethan stepped closer, pulling her into a quiet embrace. I've never been prouder of anyone, he murmured. You're stronger than you know. She looked up at him, voice trembling, and I wouldn't have made it without you or without both of you. The rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and clean. They stepped off the courthouse steps and into the fresh afternoon, hand in hand, a family reunited and unbroken. Clara's wheelchair rolled smoothly beside them, no longer a symbol of limitation, but of survival, perseverance, and courage. Later, back at Ethan's house, the garden glowed under the soft light of the setting sun. Lila ran ahead, twirling between the flowers and the little stone paths. Clara followed slowly, breathing in the scent of fresh earth, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. Ethan carried a small watering can, sprinkling droplets across the petals, laughter spilling from his lips. Clara parked herself on the garden bench, letting herself finally exhale. Lila skipped up beside her, her eyes bright. Mum, she said softly, hugging Clara's waist. Can I call you that? Clara froze, then smiled through tears, brushing Lila's curls gently. If you want to, sweetheart, she whispered. Lila hugged her tighter. I do. I really do. Ethan wrapped an arm around both of them, feeling the warmth of the moment. Clara brushed a hand over Lila's hair, smiling through her own tears. For the first time in years, she felt truly wanted, truly loved. The garden was alive with soft laughter, the golden light catching the tips of the flowers. Somewhere in the distance, a bird chirped, heralding new beginnings. They sat together, a family forged from pain, truth, and unwavering trust. And in that quiet, sunlit corner of the world, Clara realized that sometimes, the most broken souls don't just survive, they find home. Before we end, remember, even after the darkest storms, the sun will rise. Sometimes the strangers who step into your life are the very ones who help you find it again. Sometimes, the fire that destroys everything doesn't come to end you, it comes to show you who'll walk through it with you. Love isn't about finding perfect people. It's about finding people whose imperfections fit perfectly with yours. If you enjoyed this, please, like, share and subscribe to this channel to enjoy more stories like this. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and remember, not every stranger who shows up at your door is a warning. Some are a second chance.